General impression on your quiz, you have improved greatly on the question about integral values. You're looking really good on that one. However, that first one, the solving for R, not so good. So you can bet that we will be putting more questions like that on future quizzes so that I don't have to, or that I'm sure you know how to do a question like that. So I'll make some quizzes up. I already have the next two made up, but for the ones after that, we're going to come back to that kind of question. So I want to make sure we get good at that. All right. Number one here, Bill plans to catch 4 times as many fish as Brian. Bill need to catch, oh, that's weird. All right, so 4 times as many subscriptions, who cares? At least 73 subscriptions in all. So it says right and inequality. Now, this is a fairly common type of thing they ask you to do on the Regents. We've been doing a lot of right equations, but this is a little different in that it says to write an inequality. So that means there's 2 people here. There's Bill and Brian. So Bill is 4 times as much as Brian, so let's go with X and 4X. And they're going to sell at least 73 subscriptions, so that's 5X is greater than or equal to 73. So if I divide by 5, I'm going to get X is greater than 14 point blah, 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 whatever. 14.6 is actually what I think it comes out to. But it says here, what's the minimum number of fish Brian has to catch in order to catch what he has planned, which is to say they want to catch at least 73 fish. So my question to you is that if we put Bill down, or Brian down for 14, and we put Bill down for 4 times 14, which is 56, have we caught at least 73 fish? No. We've caught 70 fish. So with 14.6 or 14 point blah, 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 I don't care what it is. That's why I always say blah, blah, blah. What's the minimum number of fish Brian has to catch? 15. Together it has to be 73. But Brian would be 15, and 4 times 15 is 60. So Bill is 60, and now between them you have at least 73 fish, namely 75. Okay? Any questions? Very important application of inequalities, to think about those integral values, maximum, minimum integral values like you had on the quiz. Next up, factor each. I overheard Hunter talking to somebody around him about AM method, and that's exactly how you should be approaching these. If you are very good with your times tables, these are going to be easy for you. If you're not very good, then we have to go to the calculator trick I showed you yesterday. Remember that? You with me here? Yeah. What if I was to use the calculator on this, what would I enter? Yeah? Yes. You go to y equals negative 24 divided by x, and then you go to table, and it'll show you the pairs. This works out to be x minus 8 times x plus 3. And always, always, always do a quick mental check. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. 3x's and negative 8x's do add up to negative 5x's. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Sam, you with me here? Okay. Who thinks they have the answer for the next one? Letter B. Phoebe?
X. Correct. X plus 7.
Good. This is a common factor one. Sometimes kids get so caught up in seeing squared that on their paper they automatically do this. You got to be careful about that. Your first priority should always be to look for a common factor. When you cross the road, what is the first thing you always do? You look both ways. When you factor, you always look for a common factor. Don't just rush right into what Miss Daly calls the double bubble, or a pair of binomials, or double packages. Okay? Now, we get to a very different kind of question. 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. And this sets up today's lesson. Does anybody think they got this right? James?
No.
You just had a twitch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't try it.
Didn't even try it?
Nope.
I thought.
Can I tell you that one of the things I respect so much about you is your guts? and you looked at it and went, you didn't do that.
Well, I just looked at it now. It was
Oh, okay.
going over the quiz.
All right, because usually you have like the perfect attitude. Go ahead.
I tried it, I don't think it's right, but we all need to try to see 2x to the second plus 5x plus 2.
Definitely not right. You can always pull out a common factor of 1. You haven't gotten anywhere. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I had an idea.
Good.
Since there's a 2x split,
Mhm.
this is possibly, probably wrong. That you would do something with subtracting that 2 from the x squared, and then adding it to that one to make it 4, and then do 4 on 1, that's 5. I don't know, I had a weird thing.
That's actually not the most ridiculous thing going. It's kind of a step in the right direction. Go ahead.
You have to put like a 2 in front of the x. Like usually we just do x minus.
All right, now we got an idea. I think what Emily's saying is this. Emma, sorry. I think what Emma is saying here is this. One of them has to be 2x and one of them have to be x. Now that's the real Emma returning. This is the one that I have so much respect for. Yes, it does. Because if you just put an x here, what's x times x?
X squared.
And what does it say it's supposed to be?
2x.
Now, of course, before we cross the road, we always look both ways. So I would look here and say, oh, I got a 2 here. Oh, I got a 5 there.
Yes, you do.
2 doesn't divide into 5, so I can't pull out the common factor. Would have been sweet if I could have pulled out that common factor. Would have been really sweet. Well, what else do I do?
Calculator.
Calculator? Calculator actually won't help you on this one. Maya's like, try that. Wouldn't work it. Any other ideas? Any other steps you think you can take? Well, here's a step I think all of you should have been able to take. Ready? You looking?
Yeah.
Mr. Mahable? I think you should have known to put both pluses. Why?
Oh, yeah, yes, of course.
Why?
Because there's no minuses in the.
That's one way to look at it, but you're gonna multiply out to a positive and add up to a positive. The only way to do that is if they're both positive, okay? And here's the cool thing though. It's not as hard as you think in the sense that you now have to multiply out to 2. Now, if I said you had to multiply out to 100, think of all the possibilities. 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 4 and 25, 5 and 20, 10 and 10. Lots of different possibilities. But now I'm just saying 2. How many ways are there to multiply out to 2?
2.
There's 2 ways. 1 times 2, 2 times 1. So let me guess this one and see if it works. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is 2 x's. 2 times x is 2 x's. What's 2 x's plus 2 x's? 4 x's. And then 2 times 1, it's supposed to be 5x. Came out to 4x.
Oh, no.
Let's go back to what we know had to be.
Are we just gonna keep guessing numbers?
Well, there's only 2 guesses. That's the cool thing about this being a 2, which is not a happy coincidence. I definitely picked it for that reason. Now let's see if it works. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is 4x. 1 times x is 1x. What's 2x? What's 4x plus 1x? And 1 times 2 is 2.
I'm so
See,
confused.
here's the thing.
I actually got this.
When we have, God bless, when we have a leading coefficient, that is a number in front of the x squared, that's not 1. You can't do AM. I mean, you're gonna double check, you're gonna check it using something like AM, but when you guess, you can't do AM because, look what happened here. Isn't it true that as soon as you put the 2 in front here, and then when you multiply it by the x, you're gonna get 2x squared, but when you multiply this 2, it's not worth 2 anymore. What's it now worth? 4. So this changes the dynamic greatly. And we have to be prepared. We have to come up with some kind of a strategy to be able to handle it when we can't get out a common factor and there is no, and there is a lead coefficient other than 1.
Where are you going?
I am getting something to drink because my throat is pretty dry.
Nice.
So,
Do you have a fridge in there? You didn't know that? I've never been in there.
so now, how am I going to come up with some kind of an alternative strategy? The really cool thing is I have a fantastic alternative strategy. How many people here feel like when the coefficient in front is just a 1, all right, how many people feel like they can do it using AM? That they're pretty good at it using AM as long as that coefficient's 1. What if I said to you, I can make every problem turn into a problem with a coefficient of 1? By hocus pocus, I can do it.
That's cool, bro. Nice.
All right, this is what we're going to show you now. We are going to do a technique, very, very fancy mathematical technique, that I technically call Plan B.
That's fine.
Okay? I'm going to go with Plan B here. We're going to see how it works. Ready? Watch how simple this is. And I want you to know that this will confound people all over the place. I used to teach this a totally different way. And my kids would struggle with it. They'd eventually get it, but it would take weeks for them to get. You are going to get it in 5 minutes or less. Because the teacher showed me how to do it, and ever since then, like 3 or 4 years ago, I've been able to show my class how to do it, and it's so much easier. Ready? Here's what you're gonna do. First, you always look for a common factor, like crossing the road. Is there a common factor? No. So I hate when there's a coefficient other than 1, and there's no common factor. So I'm gonna get rid of the 2, and I'm gonna multiply it over here. I said you're kind of in the right direction, but you weren't fully in the right direction.
Well, I said add.
Okay, so I'm going to multiply there, and I'm going to write the new problem on the board. X squared minus 5x plus 4. Now, factor that. That should be very easy.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, I promised to be able to make everything into a lead coefficient of 1 problem. Mary, I like your sweatshirt. I think it's funny. Bless you. Okay, so when I factor it, what do I get? X minus 4 and? Now, as always, quick mental check. X times x squared, x times negative 1, negative x. Negative 4 times x, negative 4x, negative x, negative 4x adds up to negative 5x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Now, if I were a kid sitting in class, I would be like jumping out of my seat going, oh, oh! And it'd be like, whoa, what did you want to say? Maybe I should go grab a seat so I could have a conversation with myself. What I want to say is this. You can't just change the question. Imagine if you could do that on number 1 on the quiz. Right? All the people who got number 1 wrong. Imagine if you could just change it to, like, instead of all the squared stuff, just write y equals mx plus b solve for m. Y equals mx plus b solve for m. Just go, I like this. This is new math. This is really cool. I take something I don't know how to do and I just change it into something I do know how to do. I think I'm getting 100 on the Regents. Right? That's a beautiful thing. You can't do that.
Why not?
Because now you changed the answer. So when we get the answer key from the state, and you put down this, it's wrong.
Why?
Because it's not the same question. Does this multiply out to 2x squared?
It could if I wanted it to.
Really? X times x, 2x squared. Go ahead. How are you going to do that? Are you like some Harry Potter wizard?
I can be if I want to.
Go ahead. Be a Harry Potter wizard.
I don't know how to be one yet. I'll look on YouTube how to be one.
All right. I promise you there's no YouTube thing for that.
Oh, there it is.
So I have changed the question. So as soon as I change the question, I've now changed the answer. So the question is, how am I going to balance that out? Now, I multiplied by 2, agree? What is the opposite of multiplying by 2? So I multiplied the last term by 2, now I have to divide both last terms by 2. And that will balance it out for you. Now the last thing you need to do is a little bit of quick mental math. Ready? What's 4 divided by 2? 2. So the first term is x minus 2. Now this last term, don't write anything yet. You can't write x minus a half. You can't put a fraction. When we factor, we get whole numbers, integers. Okay? No. Do you remember when you were in like elementary school and we told you to convert 1.5 to a mixed number? What would that be?
I don't know, I totally forgot everything.
I remember
Go ahead.
3 halves.
Right. You do 2 times 1 plus 1. Remember that?
Yeah.
Times plus, and then you would get 3 over 2. If I did 2 and 3/4, I would do 4 what? Times 2 plus 3, and I would get 11 over 4. That's what we're going to do here. Ready? 2 times x minus 1. So this becomes 2x minus 1. And those are the factors. 2x minus 1 times x minus 2. So here is our strategy. The first thing you do is look for a common factor. If you can find a common factor, pull it out. If you can't find the common factor, then do times 2, but to make up for it, you have to come back and divide by 2 later. If you do that, then you're in good shape. Okay? Try it. Okay. This is all Francesca's fault.
Francesca.
She did. She made me one.
And you made me one.
I know.
It's like a yawning triangle.
Let's go. Come on. Remember, multiply that last term and then divide it back in and then convert. Plan B.
I think
Okay,
I think I got it.
so my first step is to look for a common factor. Always do that. Guys, some of you will skip that step. That's a major mistake. There's no common factor, so I multiply by 3, and I get x squared minus x minus 6. How do I factor x squared minus x minus 6?
X minus 3 and x plus 2.
That's right. Right? I want to multiply out to negative 6, add up to negative 1. So it's x minus 3x plus 2. Am I done?
No.
No. Since I multiplied by 3 here, what do I have to do now? Divide by 3. What's 3 divided by 3? So the first factor is x minus 1. Now the next one, I will do like the elementary school trick, and I get 3x plus 2. And those are my factors. Now, always a quick mental check. Ready? X times 3x is 3x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. Negative 3x plus 2x adds up to negative 1x. And negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Okay? Try next one.
Whoa. Pen exploded.
One there.
I don't need it. It was nice to see it would explode it all over my hands.
You didn't get it on here, did you?
I did yesterday, but I cleaned it.
What's our very technical term for this technique? Plan B.
Plan B. Okay, so I begin by multiplying this by 5. I look for a common factor, there is not one. So then I have n squared minus 7n minus 30. I need to factor that. What do I get?
Thank you. What do I get?
N minus 10 and
N minus 10, N plus 3. Good. But if I multiply by 5 here, what do I have to remember to do? Divide back by 5. So that gives me N minus 2 times what? 5N plus 3. Quick mental check. 5N times N is 5N squared. N times 3 is 3N. Negative 10N. That adds up to negative 7N. And negative 6. Okay? So, our strategy today was to take the AM method to the next level. We always want to turn around. We want to make sure that there's no common factor. If there is a common factor, pull it out and run with it. If there's not a common factor, we go to plan B, which is multiply the last term and then come in and divide it back in. Take a look at number 11. What do you notice is different about number 11? There is a common factor, so pull it out. 2 times n squared plus 5n plus 4. Can you factor n squared plus 5n plus 4? Oh, yes, you can. Can you factor n squared plus 5n plus 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. What do you get?
Oh. Oh.
AM, guys. What two numbers go here and here? 1 and 4, good. And that's the answer, 2 times n plus 1 times n plus 4. On number 12, would you use a common factor or would you use plan B?
Common factor.
Common factor. On number 13, would you use a common factor or plan B? Plan B. So now you have two techniques for handling it when this lead coefficient is not 1. We will do one more day of this, and then we are going to go to another level. All right?